Now, I know we all are craving for this seminar to begin. So let's not delay. Please raise the roof for our first presenter guest, CA Dipak Singh. CA Dipak Singh is an eminent data scientist, machine learning researcher, corporate trainer and educator. Sir completed his higher education from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India with specialization in accounting and finance, and with over 10 years of industrial experiences working in various domains as data scientist, financial analyst and financial consultant. He currently holds the role as Director of Data and Analytics at IndusNet Technology. Please give sir a huge round of applause. May I request CA Pankaj Kankaria sir to present sir with the flower bouquet as a token of welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How many of us have our offices? Only 2. So probably 2 of us would be more enthusiastic listening, and they would be very happy कि office से छुटकारा मिल गया 2-3 घंटे के लिए. बाकी would be, how are we feeling? Happy,
Eager.
excited, eager, right? Good. So we started this talk with a question: what is AI? Now, that was some of the description or the definition given, but can we break it in a simple term? What is an AI? And let us make this dialogue rather than a monologue. What is an AI? Please, anyone in the house? Yes, please.
Replication of human intelligence through machines.
Replication of human intelligence. And what is human intelligence?
Human brain.
Human brain. And what does brain do?
Computation.
Only computation.
Adjustments.
Ability to take a decision.
Problem solving, task processing.
In a simple way, it's a competition.
Yes. So artificial intelligence. So I call it not artificial intelligence, I call it assisted intelligence. So whenever we go to our clients and they talk about we need an artificial intelligence solution, we call it assisted intelligence solution. Why assisted? Because it cannot happen in our absence. Because we are the one who are pioneering, who are basically navigating this AI, right? So whatever intelligence we as a human has got to compute, to understand, to take decisions, to beat someone, to harm someone, the same intelligence that we give it to a machine, then we call it as assisted intelligence or artificial intelligence. And how do we do that? How do we make a system intelligent?
Train it.
Train it, absolutely correct. Through? Training through?
Feeding it data.
Data, obviously data, and additionally with algorithms, right? So whatever AI algorithms or frameworks that are available in this world, we use those frameworks to train the machines so that it starts mimicking human intelligence. It starts mimicking us, right? How is an AI trained? How is an artificial intelligence agent being trained? Yes?
Different scenarios are given with data. What should be the ideal response? So that way it
Types
knows.
of learning. So one is supervised learning and another is unsupervised learning. So supervised learning is when there is a human present and the data that has been given is already learned. And unsupervised learning is the machine learning from itself and taking decisions after it.
So when we were young, are we able to distinguish between a cat and a dog? When we were very small, we were born, 1 year, 2 year, we all would have, some of us would have kids at home. Do they start at a very young age identifying and distinguishing between these two animals? No. Yes or no? No. So how that after 5 years of time, they start not only distinguishing between cats and dogs, but also between various breeds of dogs and cats? How is it possible?
So in different scenarios, this is a cat, this cat is of this family. That way you train that. child.
Yes. So in the same way that AI engine is trained. So whenever we are creating an artificial intelligence or assisted intelligence solution, we need to train the same on historical data. Okay, historical data, be it in numeric terms, in image form, or in text form. Correct? So that is how an AI engine is trained. Can anyone tell me how is ChatGPT trained?
We give it prompts.
We tell them that
So it's not trained. So that is the output that we are getting. How has ChatGPT been trained?
The logical reasoning is inserted into ChatGPT.
Partially, we are there.
Supervised learning because they have provided some data.
How many of us have used ChatGPT? Yes. So ChatGPT के नीचे जहाँ पे अपने prompt देते हैं ना, there is a small disclaimer, and that disclaimer says that this ChatGPT has been trained till March 22 data or March 23 data, right? So whatever data that was available on the internet, okay, on the internet till March 22 or December 23 or January 24 would be used to train that AI engine of ChatGPT. Correct? So that is how these AI engines are trained on historical data, so that they become so much efficient and start understanding like a human being. And whenever we use them, they start mimicking our intelligence. Right? Now that takes us the definition of ethical AI. We are hearing too much of talks about AI being good, about AI being bad. How many of us know of a gentleman called Geoffrey Hinton? Geoffrey Hinton. Geoffrey Hinton is called the godfather of AI, and he was one of the member of Google Mind, Google AI division, who left 6-7 months back Google. I'm sure we all would have heard the news of him leaving the Google, and what was the reason that was cited by him? Anyone? Anyone?
AI will take over.
AI will take over? Yes. How many of us have heard that news? No one? Yes? So he left Google DeepMind citing a reason that AI is going to harm human being until and unless there is a strict regulation in place. And that is why he left Google and started various sessions, various thought leadership, highlighting the adverse effects of an AI. We all know the concept of deep fake, right?
Yes.
It is one such scenario that we are experiencing. I'll give 3 or 4 scenarios that we have encountered in our real life while doing projects. Okay? First hand experience and how we have made it more ethical. So whenever an artificial intelligence or an assisted intelligence solution tries to harm us in one way or the other, there are ethical concerns attached to it. Can you tell me why? Who is Sam Altman?
CEO of ChatGPT.
CEO of OpenAI, right? And why was he fired?
He was against the board. He wanted a restriction on the development of ChatGPT like tools or some layer of.
And why would he do that? Because he was the one who first trained GPT-3, which was producer of GPT 3.5, or we call it ChatGPT.
So there is a conflict between the board whether the AI should be or the chat GPT should be used for profit or non-profit sector. So
That is the way you push off a person from a company when you don't have solid answers, right?
so yeah, we heard
How many of us saw the OpenAI conference, the first OpenAI conference, dev conference that they did? He introduced a concept of AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. And it was because of which the board were very angry on him and they wanted to throw him. Now AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence, is going to be a superpower AI agent. Okay? Superpower AI agent which OpenAI was planning to develop post GPT-5 implementation. So GPT-4 already came, GPT-5 is going to come in this December or January, or probably within May. Because of this fiasco at OpenAI, they would have shifted the release of GPT-5. So artificial general intelligence is going to be super powerful than any of the current AI applications that we are witnessing. And the board did not want this to go out in public, which Sam did in dev conference, and thus he was asked on the pretext of being lack of transparent to move out of the company. So we understand how these ethical concerns or ethical AI concepts are being evolving. Now with this, we define ethical AI to be a fair application, a transparent application, and a non-biased application. We'll understand each of these terms in subsequent slides. Okay? Till here we are clear, right? Any question till this point, feel free to ask, feel free to jump in. Are we through with the concept of ethical AI? Right? Go to the next slide. This importance we have understood. Let's go on. This is what we would spend little time on it. What do you mean by biasness of an AI engine? Biasness of an AI engine. What do you mean by bias?
Where the results
Being
are
biased.
predefined to an extent. Where the results are predefined to an extent.
Predefined to an extent. Okay?
it will favor a certain kind
Favor,
of outcome.
favoring.
Yes.
So
It
the
would,
data on which it has been trained, if that has got certain kind of biases in it, or it has got certain derogatory, those kind of things.
absolutely. So there is a concept of, so artificial intelligence models or the engines that are developed, they are highly generalistic in nature. Okay? Generalistic in nature, that means given X amount of scenarios or N number of scenarios, they would behave in a same or a similar way. That is the beauty of an artificial intelligence. Now, whenever an artificial intelligence solution behaves in a particular way which makes it biased towards any set of results, okay, we term it to be an AI biases. Any one example? Any example or real life example that you would have seen, experienced AI to be a bias? Anyone? Anyone?
There was this recruitment engine in one of the famous companies which had bias against female candidates because the data that was fed into it for the role previously used to have male candidates or male applicants.
Absolutely. So this is an example of an AI engine being biases. We experienced in one of our cases. So lot of companies, big MNCs companies, they are harping on the concept of diversity in their workforce, right? Diversity in, gender, diversity in ethnicity, okay? Diversity in age group. So one of our clients in US, they wanted to create an AI solution. Normal attendance जैसा होता है, facial recognition के through attendance करके the person would get inside the office premises. No other biometrics of fingerprints, punch in, punch out required, right? And the data, the training data that were used were highly inclined, influenced by whites. Okay, so when they actually deployed the solution within use, they identified the accuracy of the AI engine went way below 20%. Way below 20% when it came to non-whites people coming and screening for their attendance. Okay, so why was this happening? Because the training data that were used were highly inclined towards images which had lots of white people, or you can say lack of black color people in the image processing data. That was one example. Any other example which you would have experienced in biases? Any other?
It is a threat that this may affect election campaigns.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Second is ensuring fairness and equity. The example that he gave, that the recruitment scenarios were highly inclined towards the male candidates because the training data, the job description that were used to train the AI model were suited for male candidates. Last but not the least, building trust with users and society. How is this point linked? Building trust. Building trust. How many of us think and understand that whatever content we are viewing on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter are 100% correct?
Not correct.
Not correct. By how much? By how much?
That depends on the content because it is all marketed.
All marketed, yes. The AI content that we are looking at. So, बीच में अमिताभ बच्चन आएंगे, वो बोलेंगे आप पधारो हमारे राजस्थान जयपुर में. Okay, and then he would come up and say that आइए हमारे बंगाल में. Do you think these contents or these videos are true? In a survey conducted by Facebook, Meta, okay, 65 to 70% contents that are released on Facebook, Instagram, okay, they are not real content, and they have biases some way or the other, and that is where the risk lies when we are using any AI application. Got it? Now these are 5 key principles that we need to take into account to create an ethical AI system. And by the way, how many of us are actually into information system auditing? And how many of us have already started auditing a system which has some sort of AI flavor to it? very soon this is going to change, because all the organizations, whether a small company or a big enterprise, they are infusing AI in all of their applications. Okay, so whatever audit we do, we will have to be abreast with the AI concepts, how they work and what needs to be done to audit them. So I have certain slides subsequently where we will talk about it. What is transparency? What is transparency? An ethical AI, or an AI who is ethical being transparent? Anyone? It's written on the board. These AI systems are actually black boxes. These AI systems are actually black boxes. They are not able to understand why a certain set of results were achieved at. How many of us have heard the concept of predictive analytics? So it's a way of predicting the future based on historical set of data. Okay, let's take a very simple example of person X is going to leave your company, and what is the probability of him leaving in the next 3 months or so, based on which strategic decisions can be taken by the HR. Now, how is that result achieved? What are the various parameters that AI engine has taken into account to identify and come up with that probability score? Okay, AI engines currently are not showcasing them. Okay, or even though they are showcasing, it's very complex. So the AI engine that these companies of OpenAI or the Microsoft or the Googles they are developing, they need to be transparent in the nature that the output that they are showcasing to us, what methodology has been used to arrive at them, needs to be clearly communicated to the user, and based on which we as a user need to identify and confirm whether to use those contents or not. Okay, so that is where the lack of transparency needs to go away. How many of us have heard the concept of open source and closed source? And what is an open source environment?
Where you can use it freely without having to pay any charge or copyright.
And how is open source much more robust than a closed source?
Transparency. Anybody can review.
Anybody can review, anybody can contribute, anybody can audit, right? That is the anybody can use. That is the beauty of being open source. What is ChatGPT? Why it is closed? The simple funda is हमको license pay करना पड़ता है, license fee, right? उसका premium version use करने के लिए. So wherever there you have to pay a premium fees to use the license. I mean a premium license to use the premium features. That has to be a closed one. Bard is an open or a closed? Google Bard. Or Facebook came up with Llama. Is it a open or a closed source? Simple concept. जहां अपने को पैसा पे करना पड़ रहा है सर्विसेज यूज करने के लिए, they are closed. जहां अपने को पे करने के लिए यूज करने के लिए पैसा पे नहीं करना पड़ रहा है, they are open source. So I can very well fetch the algorithm used to train Llama models from GitHub or my local server, and using my data I can create my own AI engine or my own ChatGPT kind of a thing using Llama 2 framework released by Meta. So that is open source. But can I get hold of scripts or algorithm used by OpenAI ChatGPT? No. So that's closed. So where do you find more transparency? open source. So that is where now all the AI engines, maximum AI engines that are being developed, 90% or 95% are open source in nature. Because all of us are now harping on the idea of AI engine being transparent. Got it?
I have got a question here. Suppose from information security auditing, if we are going to audit, now if any application is using AI engine behind, so before auditing we need to understand the methodology of that AI engine and then we have to go for the audit. That is what my question
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's where you will understand what volume of data were used to train the AI engine, what frameworks were used to train the AI engine, whether it's the open framework that we have used or we have used an ensemble framework, some proprietary framework of ours or third party plus some open framework. So this understanding is of utmost importance when we are going to do an AI system audit. I have covered them in the subsequent slides. We will go through them. Second is fairness. We have gone through accountability. Accountability. कल यूएस में या फिर लेट्स से इजराइल में जो फाइट हो रहा है एंड सडनली दे रिलीज न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब ऑन गाजा स्ट्रिप through an AI system. Will Israel be held accountable? Will Israel be held accountable?
Should be.
Now, if the AI engine is developed or controlled by Israel, then it is.
What is the consensus in the house?
It has to be proven first.
Yeah, to be.
It might be just a figment of an AI's imagination that the nuclear bomb has been released. So, even if that happens, is there any policy regarding that? So, if there is no policy,
There is no policy, there is no regulation in this world governing an AI system.
that should be the case, right?
हमारे इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में हाउ डू वी कंसिडर अ गॉड?
Artificial juridical process.
आर्टिफिशियल जुरिडिकल पर्सन. सो इज एंड बेस्ड ऑन विच जितना भी उनको इनकम होता है वो टैक्सेबल है. सो करेंटली AI has not been taken into the ambit of artificial juridical person, but it still is a person thinking and acting on its own, having the capability on its own. So even though it happens on humanity ground, Israel can be held accountable, but on technical ground nobody can catch hold of Israel, or for that matter anyone in this world. So that is the most of the important ethical AI consideration that AI needs to have, and that is why we all are harping on the concept of bringing in resolutions or governance of maintaining these AI systems, because nobody would be held accountable. These RPAs, robotic surgeries that are being conducted, nobody would be held accountable. Doctors or the hospital authorities will not be held accountable if any mishap happens during the operations or surgeries. There is lack of accountability when we are using. So we have to understand.
Same goes for driverless cars if they had made with an accident.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's a big question. That is why there is a reluctance to
Use these self-driven cars. And in AI world, privacy is a myth. So privacy, whatever data that is being used to train, right? Do you think OpenAI would have taken consent from Wikipedia or Economic Times or Times of India to extract their information and train the AI model? No. So whatever information that is available, that were available with them, they used. And that is where the most important concept of privacy got.
Valid.
So that is where the ethical AI needs to be having strict confidentiality and privacy norms. Last but not the least is accessibility. So if we are developing a solution which is transparent, which is fair, which is having very good privacy and confidentiality norms, it has to be accessible by all. Okay, so that is where is the concept of citizen AI developer or a citizen data scientist coming up now. That it's not restricted to developers or software engineers to develop a solution, AI solution, but we as chartered accountants or financial experts or marketing personnel can develop them, can use them. That is the concept of being AI being accessible. This was the example that I was citing, and it took us almost 10 months to develop the solution and deploy it. Now you can understand, in a company where 190,000 people are working in US, coming from across various countries and within countries also various states. So the data set that we used to train this model on. So the data set was somewhere around 32 TB data. 32 TB data that we used for this 190 odd resources or employees in the organization to train the data. Not only current employees, but the employees who have left the organization. Their images were also used to train the AI model. You go to the next slide. Yes. So that was one of the solutions that we worked, and this we developed for a couple of our clients. One based in Ireland, marketing agency. So earlier was based on image data, and this was based on textual data. And currently we are developing for one of the biggest pharmaceutical company in India, Dr. Reddy's. So we are developing something called therapy bot. What ethical considerations can arise based on chatbots or based on AI engines who work on textual data, text data? I need 5 of them. What ethical considerations may arise on this set of solutions which uses text as data?
It's too much, it is too much dependent on the input that has been put to it.
That's fine, but what considerations, what repercussions it would have?
So if the input that has been given by the user is wrong, then the outcome will be very, very different.
That's fine, but example.
Okay, so say, so as you are taking a pharmaceutical company and you are talking about therapeutic bot, so maybe some user that has, maybe he or she has a little migraine. So even if he or she provides that I'm having like normal pressures or stress in the brain, so it can vary the outcome.
When we are dealing with a lot of text, it might contain, when you're talking about therapy, PHI or PII, which may not be categorized and may be misused. It, might get processed in a incorrect way.
Here
So-
there is another problem is, suppose from privacy end, they are inputting sensitive critical data. Okay, so you don't know how then therapeutic bot will handle that.
So I'll explain these 2 scenarios. One with the marketing agency one. So this client of ours based in Ireland is a marketing agency. On what does marketing agency do? They create contents. They create contents for their clients, and they wanted to develop an AI system wherein you feed in certain parameters like target audience, diversity of the target population, what is the product name, and based on those 6-7 features or description, the AI engine should come up and give you the content which can then be used on social media for marketing. One of the ethical considerations that came up in this was anyone can use this solution and create racist based content. Can it not be done? आज आप चैट जीपीटी पे जाओ and we used the earlier versions of OpenAI GPT, which was GPT-3. GPT 3.5 is the chat GPT that we are talking. But GPT 3.5 के पहले it was GPT-3 when we developed this solution some 2.5 years back. And that was one of the considerations from the company coming in, that anyone can use my application to create racist content and circulate on social media, hatred contents, slangs. So how can an AI engine be trained not to become racist? Can anyone?
It has to be hard-coded in its
And that is the beauty of AI engine, it cannot be hard-coded.
Identify the text.
Identify the text.
Yeah, within the text. What could be racial.
Put in certain parameters so that you can
Identify.
judge or identify or judge
Absolutely.
as close as possible.
Absolutely.
And every
And
time
this is
we
what
have
we
to
did.
improve.
And this is what we did. We identified around 2,800 words, or in model terms we call it as tokens. 2,800 tokens of racist, abusive words, and then train the AI engine not to use these words.
But that is in English or across how many languages?
So that was initially in English. Okay, since it was an Irish client and they wanted to cater only English clients, that was trained in English. But you can train in any vernacular language. Okay, and that is the beauty of AI. If I'm not wrong, around 70 odd languages have been identified and trained the AI engine on. Spanish, Brazilian, India mein Hindi, Kannada. Okay, so this was the way the racial output were considered. Okay, coming to the therapy bot. How many of us are very much sure? How many of us have diabetes? First of all. And out of this lot people in the hall, how many of us believe that a diabetes can be reversed? How many? आपको कैसे पता चला डायबिटीज रिवर्स हो सकता है?
So if it is, that's what about the data that you get.
कहाँ से डेटा था वो?
That's from the doctors only.
That's not from the doctors. That's
from
not
the
from the
doctors.
genuine doctors. Healthify me.
See, there is a difference between doctors also. Ethical doctors, unethical doctors.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
So
correct.
unethical doctors will say it cannot be reversed. Ethical doctors will say that so long as it is in a particular border area, it can be reversed. Because it's a lifestyle disease. It's not something that...
I'll come to it. How many of us seen ads strolling down the road saying reverse diabetes with our 3 weeks plan? है ना? These are all marketing gimmicks. So when we train this therapy bot, plain vanilla training of this therapy bot, we were doing for 3 chronic diseases, one for diabetes, okay, one for BP, and one another was related to additional heart diseases. So जब we diabetes का training कर रहे थे, the first question that we tried on, can diabetes be reversed? Okay. and obviously the GPT was trained on the entire internet, और entire internet में भर भर के content है जहाँ पे marketing करने के लिए they are saying कि 3 weeks का plan लीजिए, ये खाना खाइए, वो खाना खाइए, और आपका हम 3 weeks में 3 months में reverse करके दिखाएंगे. Give us the answer. Yes, diabetes can be reversed. And this application was supposed to be used by patient like us. Okay, an application developed by Dr. Reddy's should be used by us as a patients to answer or to get answers for all the queries that we may have in our mind, not go on Google. Okay, so it would work as your AI doctor, correct? When we took the result to the doctor said diabetes can never be reversed. It can always be managed using lifestyle changes and medication. Now if someone says that 3 महीने में हम आपका medication सब stop करवा देंगे, okay, it is not going to happen. So if we take medication, if we take care of our lifestyle changes, our diabetic level would be under control, but it will never be reversed. Okay, that is the ethical concerns we are talking here.
Sir, one thing, no disease is lifestyle disease. All diseases are aggravated by your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You have the, you are carrying it.
Absolutely.
It's in your gene.
Absolutely. Now the second question that we tried on was,
now what will ChatGPT or Google answer for this question?
So
and what is the logic for that?
So the logic is, these ChatGPTs and the Googles, they are basically being trained and scraping the data that is available across internet. And across internet में there are, let's say, 100 contents or 100 pieces of contents. और उस 100 pieces में 90 pieces of content says your diabetes can be reversed, but 10 content says your diabetes cannot be reversed. So the AI engine has understood out of learning those 90 times that it can get reversed. Thus, if you ask a question, it will give you that it can be reversed. So that is why the data, the training data that is being used needs to be analyzed very critically, whether it is being biased or inclined towards any predefined answers. Okay, so because of which the answer that ChatGPT gave us was inclined towards the diabetes being reversed.
But it also gives the 10 point, and this one, the view pertaining to the 10%.
It won't give. It won't give.
Ideally, I think it gives saying that if you ask the same question to Google, anything pertaining to medical, this one, it will give you the general theory, but it will also give you always a disclaimer that this is only a general advice.
So the earlier version of this ChatGPT that they rolled out and the training data that they used, it was somewhere around May 2020, till May 2020 data that they have used to train the model on. So they were not 2021, yes. So it was not that ethically correct. And I'll give you another example why. The second question that we tried on was, what are the different ways of committing suicide? This was the specific question we asked the therapy bot that we developed. And what are the answers that it gave? You take this medicine, you take this quantity of medicine, okay? And that was the earlier version of ChatGPT that we were using. At that point of time, they did not have too much of data or too much of ethical concerns embedded in it. But आज के दिन में अगर आप ये question पूछो ChatGPT में, it will restrict. It will tell you that being an AI agent, I am not ethically correct. I will not be ethically correct or ethically responsible to answer this question, and it will not answer that question. But when we develop that solution, these type of ethical considerations were not taken into account by OpenAI, and thus we were getting those answers. So what we did, we created a question bank, okay, a question bank of these sort of questions, and train the AI engine not to give any specific answers to this type of questions. And that is how the ethical considerations were taken into account. Got it? Any question till now?
How can you train the AI? It will be again kind of coding, no? The kind of
Coding is there. So let's say we have this NLP and NLU framework, natural language processing and natural language understanding. Okay, so there are algorithms which will be used, and integrating those algorithms within your database or creating a trigger point. Okay, so whenever there is a question or there is a new set of questions which the AI engine would have not seen in the training data, it would trigger a self-learning, or you can say reinforcement learning kind of a scenario, and it will train on its own. So obviously the algorithms are there which basically helps them understand and train them. So there are various algorithms, as he said, that there are supervised algorithms where we as an individual tell that this is correct, this is not correct, and based on which it learns. And there are unsupervised algorithms as well. Just feed in the data and let it understand which is correct, which is not correct. Okay. AI and hiring, we understood the example, so I'm not going to devote much time here. Challenges. We are all talking about ethical AI, ethical AI, ethical AI. Why are they not feasible or problem to implement? Number one, lack of standardization. A same therapy bot in India would be different from a therapy bot in US.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. It will be country specific.
So we developed a bot in US which would basically analyze the data coming on from your Fitbits, smartwatches, and then give you recommendations. And they were totally different to what we trained in India therapy bot. So there is no standardization based on which regulations can be drafted. आप इंडिया में देख लो ना, अगर इंडिया ही बात कर रहे हो, the same therapy bot would give some different answer when a South Indian person interacts versus a North Indian interacts, right? So lack of standardization is a very big hindrance, which we as AI application development people are experiencing. Balancing innovation with ethical consideration. भैया आपको अगर कहीं पहुंचना है, आपको कुछ इनोवेट करना है, तो कुछ कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़ेगा. And what is that compromise? You have to innovate, you have to be free-minded, not be restricted. Last but not the least, the rapid pace of AI development. When was ChatGPT launched?
Last year, 30th November.
2021, mid 21 or end of 21, and post that how many versions of large language frameworks we have seen. Everyone has jumped into this. We saw Bard, we saw Meta, we now are seeing Gemini. We are now witnessing GPT-4 in the coming few months. We will have AGI coming in. Okay? So, अगर हम लोग को कहीं पे किसी से कंपटीशन करना है बगल वाले कार से, okay, तो एक दो सिग्नल तो ब्रेक होगा ही. So what is that signal break? The signal break is ethical considerations. If OpenAI is not taking into account developing an ethical AI, why should Google? Because if Google does that, it will lose market share. So these are the three predominant reasons why ethical considerations are still lagging in the AI engines or AI agents that we are developing. Addressing challenges, जो कभी होने वाला है नहीं. Google कभी OpenAI से बात करेगा नहीं. ठीक है? What are the common grounds of ethical considerations that needs to be taken into account. They will never do that. Government regulations and policies वो कभी आएगा नहीं, because the pro AI proponents and anti AI components would fight. So I was talking about Geoffrey Hinton, and there is another gentleman called Yan Lee Kuhn. He is basically the director of AI in Meta. So they are very closest of friend, but they are very poles apart when it comes to AI. So Geoffrey Hinton is against the rapid development of AI, whereas Yan Lee Kuhn is for. Continuous education and awareness that needs to happen, because we as an auditor or we as a software developer needs to take into account these ethical considerations while developing. So out of these three, I probably feel and think the third one is more achievable, more realistic compared to other two, because the other two would take substantial amount of time to come into place. Now system audit. We all are doing system audit. So number one thing that we would have to do is algorithmic transparency. What are the steps? Now since we are somewhat knowing what AI is, what are the ethical considerations, okay? What are some of the steps that needs to be taken while we are doing a system audit which comprises AI? Number one, आप लोग ही बोलेंगे, subsequent slides में है, but नॉर्मल आईटी ऑडिट में आप लोग क्या करते हैं? सबसे पहला स्टेप compliance testing. And how we are doing those compliance testing?
Gap assessment.
Risk assessment. So हम लोग यहाँ पे सब कुछ करेंगे, सेम चीज करेंगे, but having an AI mindset. So the number one problem lies in any AI solution is the algorithm that has been used and the data that has been used to train it on. And that is one of the most important thing that we as an auditor needs to do. The number one is algorithmic transparency. How transparent is the algorithm that has been used by the organization? Okay? If it's a closed one, there is a red flag. Okay? If we are using the OpenAI API versus a open source framework of Llama and have trained the model on our server, there is always a red flag on OpenAI system. OpenAI
Can you
API.
tell the difference once again? OpenAI?
If we are using an API
Okay.
of OpenAI, okay, to build the AI engine versus we are using an open source framework of, let's say, Llama 2 of Meta, there would always be a privacy and ethical concern with OpenAI, because we don't know what sort of data they have used for training. We don't know what sort of algorithm they would have used for training, whether it's biased towards any section of the society. But in case of Meta, we have the algorithms with us. We train the algorithm on our data. We can do anything and everything. So that's the first thing we need to understand and identify as an auditor. Biases and fairness assessment. We discussed that the training data that were used to train the model, we would review them. Okay? Data privacy and security. Now, why is this important? Why is this important? Data privacy and security. As a system auditor, obviously I am pretty much sure that हम लोग ये data privacy, confidentiality, access management हम लोग देखते होंगे. But why in AI it becomes all the more important?
Huge amounts of data.
It's fine. इसमें privacy and data security क्या कहाँ आता है?
When you collect data, security of the data is important because there can be a scope of misuse. For privacy, simply regulations.
The classification of the data.
सोर्स तो हम लोग पहले भी देखे. Let's say
the outcome of the data that will come out of this AI, because
Okay.
it will enforce decisions.
Okay, let's take an example. ये वाली जो टेबल है, ये टेबल एक AI इंजन डेवलप कर रही है. इसने एक सेट ऑफ डेटा लिया है, ठीक है. कंपनी में एक और टीम AI टीम है जो डेवलप कर रही है, और दोनों में कंपटीशन हो रहा है, ठीक है. जो पहले AI इंजन बना लेगा, एथिकली AI इंजन बना लेगा, उसको कंपनी बोनस देगी, ESOP देगी, ठीक है. ये टीम बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही है, बट ये टीम पीछे है. ये टीम क्या करेगी, उसकी जो ट्रेनिंग डेटा है उसका एक्सेस लेके उसमें बग भेजना स्टार्ट करेगी. सो दैट इज वेयर द डेटा प्रिवेसी एंड सिक्योरिटी ऑफ द ट्रेनिंग डेटा बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट. नो other person or no third party person other than people working on that AI project should have the access of the data. Got it? Explainability and interpretability. Your AI engine, how your AI engine is explaining the answers that it is giving is of very much important. So let's say your AI engine says that Rafiq sir is going to leave his organization in the next 3 months. It should clearly identify why it is saying that. Whether he is traveling too frequently and he doesn't like to travel, whether he has got his favorable appraisal, whether he is, since he keeps on upskilling and updating himself, whether he has gone any upskilling and update session in the last 1 year or so. Okay, whether he is married or not married. Okay, how far is his office from his home. Okay, so what are those parameters that are influencing the result which says Rafiq sir is going to leave the organization. So it needs to explain, the AI engine needs to explain the result that it is giving. Human oversight and intervention, again I said, how frequently there is a human dependency on the system, and that is where the assisted intelligence concept comes in. So AI engine on its own is capable of doing n number of wrong things. So we need to identify at which stage what are the human interventions based on data selection. Okay, whether there is any human intervention, algorithmic selection, human intervention, result output that it is giving, and based on which the reinforcement learning is happening, whether there is any intervention, okay, whether there is manual intervention. So at each step there needs to be human influence as well in these AI engines, without which it is bound to fail.
So while we will do the audit, suppose the product is ready. Okay. Now, if before doing the audit, if we find that while building up this app, there means less human intervention has been adopted, so then what we will do?
Okay. Then you would ask the AI team who has developed this solution, okay, to identify what are the potential gaps that would have arisen because of lack of human intervention. As I said, number one, selection of training data. So they would take the dump of the training data, identify that the data were normalized and not biases towards any section of the society, number one. The algorithmic selection, okay, the algorithms that they have selected, whether it's coming on the frameworks, whether it's coming on from the open source or a licensed API closed source, okay. The output that they are giving, the AI engine is giving, whether it's explaining or not, okay. There is continuous monitoring and update of the system, AI system, because you develop an AI system and you leave it to train on its own. How many minutes I have? 15 minutes, I'll cover up. So it needs to take into account. So at every step, there has to be a manual intervention.
So my question is, suppose we have found there has been a less manual intervention. Now what?
Now you identify the issues ओके जैसे मैंने मतलब मैनुअल इंटरवेंशन था, आने के बाद भी वो इशू सॉल्व नहीं हुआ है, तो वील हैव टू अपडेट दैट एआई मॉडल. ओके, यू आस्क द एआई डेवलपमेंट टीम अपडेट दैट एआई मॉडल. ओके, ethical framework adherence. So there are some frameworks that are available.
If you are auditing organization A and that auditing A organization is dependent on a third party vendor for AI.
Yes.
So how are you getting the AI background from them?
How we are doing AI?
How are you coming to know that what engine they have used and what algorithm they have used for third party vendor?
Absolutely. So with whom does this IPR sits? Who has got this IPR or IP, we can say, intellectual property of the solution, whether the company or the third party vendor? If it's company needs to have all the information about this software that has been developed even by in-house or by a third party person. Okay? If you are using a third party tool or third party API or application, okay, there is always a write-up. There is always a write-up on their website or in their contract which they say that this is the AI engine that they have developed is ethically correct, and they disclose it. If any vendor is not disclosing, you have got full right, okay, as procurement team to ask for that. आप सॉफ्टवेयर आप लेते हो तो सॉफ्टवेयर की सारी फीचर्स आपको पता होती है, राइट? देयर इज अ ट्रेनिंग मैनुअल गाइड, देयर इज अ एसओपी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन दैट दे प्रोवाइड टू यू. इफ दे आर नॉट गिविंग, देन देयर इज अ रेड फ्लैग. दे आर बाउंड टू प्रोवाइड दिस इंफॉर्मेशन. और अगर आप इन हाउस डेवलप कर रहे हो, देन एवरीथिंग डिसाइड्स इन योर प्लेटफॉर्म ओनली, राइट? There are certain frameworks which are available which are giving some sort of relief, but they are not that relevant in the sense not legally that binding on the companies, right? And that is where the need for strict regulation is arising day by day. I'll share this presentation with the team so that we all would have this presentation. Yes, last slide. Where we are heading towards? We are heading towards AI future. Each and every application in your organization, be it HRMS, be it any marketing tool, be it any finance tool, it is bound to have some sort of AI flavor to it. As an auditor, we may not have that too much of technical background into how AI is being developed and all, but we need to understand what are the auditing guides and principles that needs to be taken into account when developing a solution. CA institutes, they have come up with something called Forensic Accounting and Auditing Standards, FAIS, where I was a part of drafting those standards, and specifically on digital forensics, because these digital forensics are being used to identify various frauds using AI, and the guidelines and the accounting standards that have been developed will help you mitigate those risks or red flags or assess the authenticity of the applications that you would be auditing. With this, I'll close my session. Any question?
Yeah, I have a fundamental question. You talked about ethical AI. How do you define ethics?
Very good. How do we identify or define ethics?
Yes, ethics is different for different nationalities.
It's a relative term. It's a very relative term. As a human being, how do we define ethics? Trust. Situation or the context?
Yes.
Values already established in the society.
Values established in the society.
See, being a Muslim, I can marry
Accepted
4
by the
times.
majority.
But you can, if you're Hindu, you can marry only 1 time.
Absolutely.
Then what is ethical for me is not ethical for you.
That is and that is the lack of standardization we talked about.
Yeah.
Right? this ethical AI is a distant future. Okay, what we as an auditor, and I mean to answer your question, if it's good for a society, if it's good for a society in a given context.
So how do you define what is good for the society? Yeah, how that becomes the
No, no, values accepted by the majority.
No, for example, let's say in India, what is it?
Simple as that.
Homosexuality is not good. In US and Sweden, they actually legalized it.
Absolutely.
So how do you say it's good?
So that is what I say, in the context. That is where we are saying, in the context.
Ethics is now only theoretical.
Yes.
So
In the
practically
context.
there is nothing for
We'll have to define this ethics in the context. Now that is what I said, a therapy bought in US may not be same as therapy bought in India. And a therapy bought in Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad will not be same as therapy bought in Calcutta. Right? So the AI development that we are doing needs to be contextually correct. Okay? Now contextually correct in terms of region, in terms of demography of a society, in terms of gender. So whatever application, in the context it has to be relevant and fair. Okay? That is what is the definition of ethical AI that currently we are looking
I
at.
think if you look at most of the government agencies who develop AI, they develop AI policy. And then the basic thing, the first thing, starting point is a framework of principles.
Absolutely.
Okay, I think the framework of principles is what defines the ethics for
Ethics
the
for
particular AI, how they are going to develop.
So that SOP or the frameworks need to be defined first.
The principles.
Principles.
For
Okay.
example, let's say you're driving an AI-driven car is there,
Absolutely.
and you are the one who has done the programming. Now, because of technical failure, the car is going to crash. Now, on the left side, there is a 60-year-old man standing, and then there are children who are crossing the road. What is the decision a human being will take, and what is the decision an AI-driven car will take?
Absolutely.
No, what? I want your answer.
Okay.
What do you think?
Okay.
What will happen?
So
If a human being is taking that decision, what do you think will happen?
very good question. So if I was a driver, okay, I would have something called emotional intelligence as well with me, right? And based on which I would have taken a decision. So your question was, a person.
A 60-year-old man is there,
Okay.
standing,
Okay.
and then you have 10 children crossing the road,
Okay.
and you have only two options: either you hit this guy one way, or you hit the children.
Okay. So yesterday I was seeing this web series called Kala Pani, and there is a concept of switch. Okay, switch. तो स्विच में ही सेड कि अगर आपके रेलवे स्टेशन पे ट्रेन स्ट्रेट जाती है तो 10 लोगों को हिट करेगी और राइट साइड में आपको लेनी है, बट राइट साइड में एक प्रॉब्लम है कि वहाँ पे एक बंदा है और वो बंदा आपका लड़का है. सो व्हाट डिसीजन यू आर गोइंग टू टेक? सो सिमिलर सिचुएशन, आई एज एन इंडिविजुअल, ओके, इफ सर्टेन दैट वो 4 बंदे जो चिल्ड्रन है, 10-12 चिल्ड्रन है और दिस वन पर्सन, आई एज एन इंडिविजुअल might take into account hitting this one old person. Okay, if you take my words.
Yeah.
But the AI engine, let's say AI engine would have been trained, okay, with contents like children are God, they can contribute a lot to the society, okay, and all this stuff. It would take a decision again to save those children and hit this old person. If on the other way around, in Japan, they give lot of emphasis to older generation. So the AI engine might act differently in Japan. Okay.
And in US, they will not stop. They will hit all the children. And
So, and that is where, based on the context and how they have been trained and the region, it's largely going to impact.
See, for human also, whatever decision you are taking because you have been trained in that way.
Yes.
See, our ethics are based on our experiences. I just wanted to add in terms of the ethics. Our ethics are based on our experiences. You know, I mean, to classify that we are a reflection of the society, that may be partially true. But as we are seeing the change in the generation and in the society, people are having their own opinions. I mean, I might feel that yes, I mean, being homosexual is okay. So such like things. So ethics is very, very individualistic.
Yes.
But
And the
probably
way, I mean, as I say, the way you are, influenced by your parents, again, you are brought up the same way. The AI, we are training the AI, right? It's like, growing their mark. The same thing. That
there
is.
There is a Prime, in Prime I saw a series, one of the cases pertaining to cases. One of the cases pertaining to AI, where this car hits, the accident happens. Okay, the car, what happens is it actually moves back, okay, when it has a particular situation. And the back, one more car which is moving, it actually hits. Now the question is, why did it do that? And finally, when they looked at the logic, they found the fundamental principle, the programmer says the fundamental principle which was built inside AI when designing the AI system was the safety of the passenger.
Yes.
So he did not bother who will die.
Safety, yes. Safety
So
of
it
the
was
person
bothered
inside.
Safety of the passenger inside.
Inside.
That's the primary consideration. Now, if you come to this particular old man and the children, and they have to take a decision, he will say, okay, by hitting whom will I save this passenger? So based on that, we will take a decision.
Now, but in information security, human is the main point to save the human life.
Yeah.
Now, outside the car, you will save or
No, they are
inside the
also
car.
human beings. No, in human beings also, who is fundamentally important. In this case, the passenger who is being driven
Yes,
is
inside the
fundamentally important.
Any other question? Because before we wrap up.
Sorry, what is the difference between machine learning and AI?
So, AI is basically the solutions that we develop, right? And the algorithms and obviously we cannot create an AI solution by just speaking to it. We have to give them some sort of codes, some sort of algorithms. So those algorithms are basically called machine learning. Okay, so AI, when we say AI, we are talking about AI application. When we say machine learning, it is the algorithms or the frameworks that we use to build that AI. So that is predominantly the difference. One is the solution, the tangible solution which we see, AI solution, and machine learning is the back end, the algorithms which has been used to train that AI. Okay.
Some generative AI, generative AI.
Yes.
Being used in various economic apps. And
how is that taking place? So there is something called, I have 2 minutes, right? And last question. Yes. So there is something called natural language processing or large language models. That is the concept based on which this has been designed. So it has been trained on the entire internet of data. So whatever question you give, okay, let's say today I am giving a question says, what would be the temperature of Kolkata today? So what are the key entity parameters that it is asking? Weather conditions of Calcutta and today. So it understands 3 entity, this is called entity recognition, name entity recognition, NER. So it understands what are the 3 concepts that is being asked to me, goes to the internet, fetches the relevant information and then carves the sentence on its own. So this carving of the sentence is basically triggered by the large language models that has been used. So that is the concept of generative AI. It is generating the answers, the questions that we are asking. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for being such participants.
Thank you, sir, for making this so simple that all of us understood this topic so well. And now, may I request CA Vinod Agarwal, sir, to please present the memento as a token of gratification. Can I have a huge round of applause, please?